Zion's hill salvation comes. These are the days of Ezekiel, the dry bones becoming as flesh. And these are the days of your servant David, rebuilding a temple of praise. And these are the days of the harvest. The fields are as wide in your world, and we are the laborers in your vineyard, declaring the word of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. There's no God like Jehovah. 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 Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. So lift your voice. It's the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain to your people. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain. Bring your kingdom. 1, 2. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain to your people. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain. Bring your kingdom. Soften our hearts. Spirit, fill us anew. Let your rain come. Soften our hearts. Pour out your Spirit. Fill us anew. Let your rain come. May your kingdom come, and your will be done on the earth as it is in heaven. May your kingdom come, and your will be done on the earth earth. Bring your kingdom. Soften our hearts. Pour out your spirit. Fill us anew. Let your rain come. Soften our hearts. Pour out your spirit. Fill us anew. Let your rain come. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain, O Lord. Send your rain.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are so glad that you joined us for worship today. Welcome to those of you who are worshiping with us here in our auditorium. Welcome to all of you who are worshiping with us in our overflow room in Fellowship Central. And thank you very much for being willing to rotate in there about once a month so we can have plenty of safe room for everyone in all of our spaces. And welcome to all of you who are joining us for worship online. We're very, very grateful that our church family can be together in so many different places to worship God this morning. We want to remind you of a couple of things. We are not passing trays for communion, and so there is communion left if you didn't bring it. Our members are becoming used to bringing their own communion, but if you forgot or if you're a guest with us and you need communion supplies, they are at the entrances to our auditorium and up front here by the stage. I think there's probably some at the back of Fellowship Central if you're in there as well, so take a minute and go and grab your communion supplies if you need those. We'll take that together in a minute. Again, we're very glad that you're here. Let's stand together and begin our worship time. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. I will seek you in the morning, and I will learn to walk in your ways, and step by step you'll lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God. Peace, perfect peace, in this dark world of sin. The blood of Jesus whispers peace within. Peace, perfect peace, where sorrow surging round. On Jesus, whose unwrought light all is found. Peace, perfect peace, where love was far away. In Jesus, keeping we are safe and brave. Peace, perfect peace, our future all unknown. Jesus, we know that He is on the throne. Where struggles soon shall cease, and Jesus called us to His
Good morning. I want to echo what Josh said earlier. We're so glad that you're here. If you're a guest with us this morning, thank you so much for spending some time with us at Memorial Road. If you're worshiping with us online or in Fellowship Central, we're so glad you're with us as well. If you are at home worshiping online, apologies. We had a software program crash. I think we're back up and running now, keeping our fingers crossed for the service moving forward. Thanks for staying with us. We appreciate your patience on that. A lot of things we want to get through today, a lot of good things going on, things we want you to know about, so bear with me here as we leap into that. Usually right now we'd be passing our collection trays. As you know, we're not doing that right now, so you can continue to give your offering either online, mrcc.org/give. You can send it or bring it to the church building here. You can give through the MRCC app or by texting. And as always, thank you so much for keeping the work of the church going through your generosity. And so we encourage you to keep on excelling in that grace of giving. If you are with us in any capacity, here in the room, online, in Fellowship Central, we'd love for you to take just a moment to let us know that you're here. Maybe take out your phone right in this moment and open up the MRCC app or go to mrcc.org/welcome book and fill out that short form. Let us know that you are here today. We appreciate you helping us keep record of everyone who's with us on any given Sunday. So you can do that right now if you don't mind. We also would love to know what it is that's going on in your life that we can be praying with you about. You can go to mrcc.org/prayer, or again, through the app, submit your prayer request, and our elders and staff, other prayer volunteers will be bringing those things to the Father this week. And so we appreciate you entrusting us with that and praying with you every single week. A couple of things as you're making your prayer list this week, we want you to remember we've had so many of our own number in our church family this year that we have lost, and so we continue to grieve and mourn that. And this week we are grieving with the family of June Wilson and Katie Knox. June passed away earlier this week on Wednesday, and so we are mourning with Bud. She's going to be laid to rest tomorrow in Bartlesville, and so our hearts go out to the Wilson family right now, and I ask that you keep them in your prayers. We're also so sad about the loss of Katie Knox, such a sweet Christian woman, and we're praying for Danny, her husband, for the rest of their family right now. We want you to know that the funeral service for Katie is going to be this upcoming Wednesday, the 11th, here at Memorial Road. It's going to be at 10 a.m. here in our building. And the viewing for Katie is going to be Tuesday, the 10th, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Memorial Park Funeral Home here in town. And so if you will be praying for Danny, for that entire family right now as they grieve the loss of Katie, who passed away on Friday. We also would love for you to keep up with what is going on at Memorial Road at any given time. You can do that in a lot of ways, but one good way is through mrcc.org/bulletin. Again, you can get to that through the app as well. Just a good way to keep up with what's happening. And there's a lot happening right now, and a lot of good things to be a part of, and so that's a good way that you can keep tabs on all of that. If you are a guest, if you're a newcomer, we have a special event that is designed just for you. We call it First Cup. It happens every single week. Right now, we're doing it right after this worship service is over. And so if you're here in the room and you're a newcomer wanting to learn a little bit more about our church family, we would love to meet you. We'd love to enjoy a cup of coffee, answer any questions you might have, give you a chance to meet some of our staff and members. And so that meets in our conference room. You just go out the back doors of the auditorium, and it's right across the lobby there, right off the main lobby. And so if you are a newcomer wanting to take a next step, First Cup is designed specifically for you. And so today or the next time that you are available, we'd love to meet you in First Cup. I want to express some appreciation to a couple of different groups this morning. First of all, if you will join me in just expressing thanks to all of those who've been helping with our disaster relief efforts over the last couple of weeks. We have had a lot of men and women. Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate Blair Horst and everyone else that's working with Blair, going out and cleaning up lots and lots of limbs all over town and helping folks out. So thank you if you're part of one of those crews. We still have a lot of homes to get to, and so if you want to help with that, you can contact Debbie Carter in the office or just come up to the building. We'll give you a packet with someone's house that you can go and work on and help them drag limbs to the curb and that kind of a thing. So feel free to get a hold of this week if you'd like to help out with that. And secondly, as you know, coming up this Wednesday, we'll be celebrating Veterans Day in this country. And so we want to, as we always do, express extreme appreciation for anyone who has or is currently serving in the armed services. And so let's express our appreciation for all of our veterans right now and the sacrifices that they've made. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your service to our country. As I mentioned, there's so many good things going on. This time of year is always exciting to me. You see it kind of visibly represented here on the stage. Today kind of kicks off in earnest our holiday giving season. And so I want to run down the status of our many holiday giving projects and how you can jump in and help specifically with those. Obviously, you see Magi boxes on the stage right now. We appreciate you bringing those up. If you still want to put a box together, you've got a couple more days to do that. You can grab an instruction sheet back from the back of the room or Information Central. Bring your box to the office by Wednesday of this week, but we appreciate those of you that have already done that. At the end of the service, anyone who's available to help take those boxes, carry them out to the east entrance, we'll have some vehicle out there that you can load them on. Josh will remind you about that at the end of the service, but we appreciate your help. And so Magi Boxes kind of kicks off our season. Next week, or this upcoming week, I should say, we are having our fall food drive, doing it just a little bit differently. We are going to kind of run that through this entire week. And so if you want to take a look on the app or in the bulletin and see all of the list of needed items, you can do that. And all through this week, during working hours, you can bring your groceries to the church building. And so you can either bring them inside, or if you don't want to come inside, call us, and we'll come out and get them for you. Or you can bring them to the stage like normal next Sunday, November 15th. Let's fill up the stage with bags of groceries as we replenish our pantry and serve people from our church family and our surrounding community and bless them with food in a time of need. And so we appreciate your help with that. Next Sunday also is going to be the day where we hand out our annual Christmas gift packets. And so we will have those as usual in the room right here and in Fellowship Central, but we'll also this year have a way for you at home to claim a packet online. If you would like to buy some Christmas gifts for kids at either Luther or Capitol Hill or right here at Memorial Road, you can pick up a packet, buy those gifts, and then bring them back by Sunday, December 6th. And so that will begin next Sunday. We'll give you more details next Sunday. As we've already mentioned, our international Thanksgiving efforts are a little bit different this year. We're not doing our annual dinner, but we are doing an international Thanksgiving blessing. And so next Sunday, November 15th, and then the days following, the 16th through the 19th, we're going to need some help. putting boxes together, blessing bags together, and then we're going to need some help delivering those out to international people in our community. We want to encourage you to send in names if you have any recipient suggestions, people who are from the international community living near you or people that you know. And then if you want to volunteer to help, you can contact Clay Hart or Marty Cargith to sign up for that. But we need some help with that as well. As we do for Thanksgiving Day in the City, another event that's going to look a little bit different this year. We're not cooking anything this year due to pandemic precautions, but we are going to still be serving food, a Thanksgiving meal, to hundreds and hundreds of people around our community. We're just going to be doing it a little bit differently. Everything's going to happen on Wednesday the 25th, the day before Thanksgiving this year. And so you can meet up here to help us assemble meal boxes, and you can also help us deliver those boxes on Wednesday. And so if you want to help with either or both of those things, you can go to mrcc.org/Thanksgiving and let us know to volunteer. You can also suggest the name of someone who needs a meal on Thanksgiving Day. So those will be ready-to-cook meals that we will deliver to people that need those. We'll also be putting up a form this week probably where we are collecting funds for pies to be bought and any other supplemental costs that we might encounter for Thanksgiving Day in the city, so you'll have an opportunity to contribute financially as well. We'll keep you posted about opportunities to do that. And then finally, if you'd like to contribute funds for prison ministry hygiene kits, this is a long-running ministry that we've been involved in, a great way to bless people who are incarcerated during this season. And so there's two different facilities that we will be providing with hygiene kits, and you can provide funds for that. Just give those via cash or check to Jerry Way, or you can bring those to the office by Sunday, November 29th. Whew, that is a lot of information, but all of it is available at mrcc.org/holiday. You can keep up to date with all of the different ways that you can bless others during this holiday season. You're always so generous to do that. Lots of great ways to get involved. I hope that you'll take advantage of those. We have another song that we're going to sing together. We're going to ask you to stand at this time. Josh will lead us in one more song, and then Phil will come wrap up our City on a Hill series.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Heir of salvation, purchased of God, born of the Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture downwards on my side, angels descending, bring from above, echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I am my Savior, I'm happy and blessed. Watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Be seated, please.
Well, welcome home. Let's begin the message today with a little bit of checking in with each other. So this is called a fist to five exercise. If you give me a fist, that means 0. If you give me a 5, that means 5. So question number 1 is, how well did you sleep last night? 0 to 5. Got a 5, got a lot of 5s. 4, good. Let's see, question number 2. How do you feel about your yard at this point? 3, 5, 0, good. Okay. Question 3, How did you personally handle the election this past week? 0 to 5, like emotionally. First of all, not as many people are answering, but several of you have chimed in on that. And you're welcome online as I keep going here. Just chime in with your answers. Give us a number so we can know. We got through it. It was quite the week, but we have made it. This series that we've been in for 6 weeks now has really been oriented toward this time of year. And the main idea that we've been studying in Scripture is, how do we become this city on a hill? How do we be the kind of Christians that no matter what's going on in the world, that we're consistently salt and we're consistently light and we're consistently calm when it comes to anxious times. And so this week is the final message in this City on a Hill series. Make sure to come back next week. I'm excited about the new series. I'll tell you more about that next week. But this final message today is really for the person listening, the person in the audience, the person at home that is thinking, yeah, I get what you're saying, Phil, and I want to be a more peaceable person, and I don't want to be quite as angry as I have been, but it's just the way I am. And I'm not really going to change, and so I just don't see a lot of hope for myself in getting a lot better with dealing with my anger and being a person of peace. And so if that's you, this particular message is for you, because I really more and more am believing that we as Christians can actually make progress in this particular area. So I want to start with a story about two presidents. Not the two presidents you're thinking of. I want to tell you a story about Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon. So Richard Nixon was asked to speak at Dwight Eisenhower's funeral. These are the 34th and 37th presidents of the United States of America. And when Nixon was asked to speak at Eisenhower's funeral, he wanted to talk about the quality that Eisenhower demonstrated that most impressed Nixon. And it's a pretty impressive what he says in this speech. So I want to read you a somewhat lengthy quote from this speech, Nixon talking about Eisenhower. People often disagreed with Dwight Eisenhower, but almost nobody ever hated him. And this is, I think, was because he himself was a man who did not know how to hate. Oh, he could be aroused by a cause, but he could not hate a person. He could disagree strongly, even passionately, but never personally. When people disagreed with him, he never thought of them as enemies. He simply thought, well, they don't agree with me. I remember time after time when critics of one sort or another were misrepresenting him or reviling him, he would sit back in his chair and with that wonderful half smile and half frown, he would say, I am puzzled by those fellows. Wouldn't that be a great reaction if we could just adopt that? I am puzzled by those fellows. He was genuinely puzzled by frenzy and by hate because he was incapable of it in himself. He could never quite understand it in others. The last time I saw him, this is what we talked about. He was puzzled by the hatred he had seen in our times, and he said the thing the world needs most today is understanding, an ability to see the other person's point of view and not to hate him because he disagrees. That was Dwight Eisenhower. Now, I don't know your reaction to that quote, but I'll tell you, the first time I read that quote for me personally, it just reminded me that we really can grow in our ability to deal with anger, to make peace, to be that kind of a person who's very calm. Because if you think about it, at least for me, when I think about Eisenhower, he dealt with way more difficult circumstances than I do. Like, he had way more critics. He had way more reasons in his life to be angry at somebody than I ever do, and probably than you ever do. He had more potential to be stressed out. And yet, at the end of the day, he could just say, yeah, you know what, I'm just puzzled by those fellows. And so to me, it's really inspiring. Like, I can get better at this. Like, you can get better at this. Like, the ability to deal with anger, it's not fixed. Like, your eye color, your hair color, certain parts about your personality, they're not going to change even if you try to change them. But I think your ability to deal with anger, it really can change over time. So, for example, think about the Apostle Peter. So early in his life, Peter's probably 19, 20 years old. Jesus is about to get crucified. You know the story from the Bible, but John 18:10, then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it, struck the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. That's young Peter. Then you fast forward a few decades, and Peter's at the end of his life, and he's writing this letter, and he says this, if you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. That almost seems like two different people. It's the same guy. And so I think that shows that you really can make progress in this area of your life. And so what I want to do is I want to go to the Bible again, and I want to give you two more helpful ways to deal with your anger when it comes to the surface. We started last week, we were talking about this, and just to remind you, here's what we talked about last week. I gave you two very simple things to remember when it comes to dealing with your own anger. And the first was just to choose to be unoffendable. If you remember that point from last week, you can make that choice. One of my coworkers, you can guess who this is, and there's a lot to choose from, but he said, one of the points I made in this message is I said, one thing you can do to deal with your anger is to say in your head to someone, I'm not going to let your dysfunction become my dysfunction. And so this coworker came up to me Sunday afternoon last week and said, hey, I'm going to go try that with my wife today. Now, I don't know how that worked out yet. I'll have to tell you later. But I would say you probably don't want to say that out loud to your wife. But that's just something you could think about. I'm not going to let your dysfunction become my dysfunction. Second thing we talked about last week was this idea that you need to just expect fallen people to be fallen people. Like, unless their last name is Messiah, they're going to let you down. And so if you expect that, then you won't be so disappointed. And so today I want to give you two more very, very simple ways to deal with your anger. First, I want to go back to the Sermon on the Mount, where the phrase for the series, City on a Hill, comes from. And I want to read you this paragraph about anger. Jesus says this, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. So he's calling people to a very high standard here. If they want to be part of his kingdom, he's saying anger is simply not in the cards. Again, Jesus says, anyone who says to his brother or sister, Raka. I did a little research into what that word actually means. It was just a first century insult, and it meant empty head. I don't know why this is kind of funny to me, because I can picture elementary kids on the playground saying, you empty head. But that's what it means. That's what Raka means. So anyone who says to his brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court, but anyone who says, you fool, another insult, will be in danger of the fires of hell. So one of the reasons I think it's important to talk about anger and to be serious about anger for 2 weeks in a row is because Jesus was pretty serious when he's talking about anger. Verse 23, therefore, if you're offering something a gift at the altar, and you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, you leave your gift in front of the altar. And first go and be reconciled to them, and then come back and offer your gift. So here, I want to point out something just based on the text here. I want you to look at the verbs. There's 2 paragraphs here. The first paragraph, Jesus is talking mainly about the problem with angry people. The second paragraph, Jesus is talking about the solution. Here's what you should do. And so pay attention to the verbs. In the first paragraph, talking about the problem, the angry people say, Raka, and they say, you fool. In other words, their anger is expressed primarily through verbal criticism or verbal insult. But in the second paragraph, more the solution, this is what Jesus is saying, do this instead. Notice the verbs in this paragraph. Leave your gift. Go to your brother, be reconciled to your brother. And so the point here that I want to leave with you is pretty simple. It's if you're trying to deal with your anger, you're trying to get better at this, then try this out. Exchange your anger for action. Like, do something about it. Because the truth is, you and I wake up and we've got 14, 15, 16, 17 hours to be awake before we go to sleep again, and we have choices about what we do with our mental energy. And the reality is, if you spend a lot of your mental energy just frustrated and angry, then what happens is you just don't have a lot to give to other people. And so one thing you can do is you can exchange your anger. Instead of just getting mad all the time, do something about it. So I'm sure you've experienced this at some time in your life, but you know that feeling when you're at a restaurant and it's a really busy restaurant and you finished your meal and you kind of want to stay a little bit longer, but there's people gathered at the door and they're waiting for the table, and so you don't really know, should I get up and leave or should we stay longer? Well, it's been a while since I've had this feeling during this year of COVID, but in the past when I have had this feeling, Mary and I have a friendly debate about this particular question. I take the side that says, hey, we paid for this meal, we're here, we need to enjoy it. And if we want to take 15 extra minutes to talk, that's just fine. Those people can wait by the door. That's my position. Mary takes this other position of compassion, which says, okay, these people are waiting for a table. We need to get up and leave so that they can have a table. You know, you can decide who's right, who's wrong. Mary takes the love your neighbor as yourself motive. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's our little friendly debate. Now, regardless of where you fall on that debate, when the server comes over to your table in this moment and says, would you like a to-go water? What are they really meaning? What they mean is stop talking, do something, leave, do something, stop talking. Well, that's the point here. When you get really angry, stop fuming. Like, get up, do whatever the next thing you can actually do to solve the problem. Like, if you need to call someone, pick up the phone and dial the number. If you need to purchase a gift for someone, buy a gift for someone. If you need to get in your car and drive somewhere and visit someone, go do that. But the more time you spend just fuming, you're not helping anybody. And I will also say the person you're fuming to is probably really sick of it. Like, they're probably really irritated that you keep ranting about whatever you rant about to them. And so maybe you should stop it for their sake. So exchange your anger for action, and I do think that's one step you can take. In fact, I would say that the difference makers in the world, like the people who really do make a big difference, it's not because they're mad. It's because they've chose to act. Now, I'll give you two examples of that. So one would be Martin Luther King Jr. Quite a few years ago, he was negotiating in Montgomery, Alabama with authorities about the end of a bus boycott, and it wasn't going well. And so there was one particular day when Dr. King just lost it. And he started yelling at these officials for what the things they were doing. And later, he was writing in his journal about this incident where he acted out in anger. And here's what Dr. King wrote. He said, "That Monday, I went home with a heavy heart, remembering that on 2 or 3 occasions I had allowed myself to become angry and indignant. Yet I knew this was no way to solve a problem. You must not harbor anger," I admonished myself. "You must be willing to suffer the anger of the opponent and yet not return anger. You must not become bitter. No matter how emotional your opponents are, you must be calm." And that's pretty amazing, hearing that from Dr. King. You think about his legacy, you think about his influence and how strongly he felt about certain moral imperatives in the world, and yet the reason he made a difference isn't because he was mad about it, it's because he acted, he did something about it. I'll give you another example. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a writer, theologian, preacher in the early 20th century. He ended up becoming a martyr for his faith. In the World War II, he was executed by Adolf Hitler because he had actually joined a group that was trying to assassinate Adolf Hitler. And so it's really interesting what Bonhoeffer wrote about anger. He said this: "Jesus will not accept the common distinction between righteous indignation and justifiable anger. The disciple must be entirely innocent of anger, because anger is an offense against both God and his neighbor." So again, these are people that made a huge difference in the world, huge difference in humanity. But the reason they made a difference wasn't because of their anger. It was about, it's their action. It's what they did. We have a lot of people in this church family. We have a lot of passionate people in this church family. You can fight for something without fuming about it. But that involves doing something. Like here, anger in your life, it needs to be a temporary emotion, not a long-term motivator. And that's the problem a lot of us get into, is that when we make anger this long-term motivator, well, number one, we don't get as much done, and then number two, we're the ones that suffer. Anger is an emotion. You can't avoid it. But don't make anger your long-term motivator. I would say for Dr. King and for Bonhoeffer, they were motivated by love, and they still made a huge difference in the world. So exchange anger for action. Here's a second idea. I want to go back to the story in Scripture. I want you to think about Jesus on the cross. And in your mind's eye, I just want you to imagine he's hanging there. He's been suffering. He's probably been awake at this point for about 30 hours. He's fatigued. He's absolutely exhausted. He's got the 6-inch nails in his wrists and his feet. The wounds on his back are probably reopening because of the rough wood of the cross. There's probably flies swarming about his head. And he's having to deal with the constant chorus of criticism from all the people around him who are mocking him, ridiculing him. He's still got saliva on his face from people who had spat upon him. And this lasts for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it goes for hour after hour after hour. And then in this moment, this is so amazing when you think about this. In this moment, he's on the cross. This is when he utters these words from Luke 23. Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. Now, there's so many things that could be said about this incredible prayer from the cross, but I just want to point out this. Jesus is, by this prayer, he's actually interpreting his event in a very particular way. The facts of the matter are, he's on the cross, he's suffering, and the pain is excruciating. That's happening, that's the fact. But through this prayer, Jesus is interpreting the event through a particular lens. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, but it's so important. I got to bring this up one more time. In your life, there's an event that happens, but then there's the story you tell yourself about the event. And so for Jesus here, the event is the crucifixion, but he is telling a story here. And think about all the stories he could have told while he's hanging on the cross. So, for example, here's one story that he could have told. I'm being murdered. And I can't believe this is happening. And someone needs to answer for this because I didn't do anything wrong. He could have told that story. He also could have told this story. I didn't have a fair trial. They paid these witnesses to lie. It wasn't fair. Here's another story. He could have said this: the criminal justice system is failing the Roman Empire. Rome claims to bring peace, but look at me. I've done nothing but love the world and heal the sick, and now I'm on a cross because of this particular system. The system is broken. He could have told that story. He could have told this story: my friends have abandoned me. Or this story: nobody understands me. Or this story: the world is coming to an end. He doesn't tell any of those stories. On the cross, here's the story he tells through this amazing prayer, and this is so important that we hear the story, receive the story, and then try to tell the story. Here's the story he actually tells through this prayer. I give them the benefit of the doubt because they don't know the full story. I give them the benefit of the doubt because they don't know the full story. In other words, he's saying, Father, these people who are crucifying me and hating me and spitting in my face, they don't know you the way that I know you. They don't know me the way I wish they would know me. And because they don't know the full story, God, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. See, what Jesus is doing here is he's realizing that these people are acting as anybody would act that doesn't know the full story. And so he gives them the benefit of the doubt. This is amazing. Like, can you imagine if you're on death row for a crime you didn't commit? Would you tell this story? I wouldn't. I'd be saying, get me out of here. I didn't do anything wrong. Like, this isn't fair. The system is broken. But when God himself comes into the world as he is living out the story of grace on the cross, he's telling the story of grace about his opponents. He's saying, I'm not going to hold it against them. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they don't know the full story. That's an amazing story to tell. Like, can you imagine how different your life would be if every time someone did something that made you mad, if you just told this story in your head, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. She doesn't know the full story. He doesn't know the full story. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If you could tell yourself this story, I'm telling you, it would change your life. It would absolutely change your life. And so here's the final strategy for dealing with your anger. Nix the negative narrative. Just get rid of it. Like, it's one thing to get angry, but you're really adding to the anger by telling yourself the negative narrative over and over and over. I can't believe she did that. I can't believe he said that. So what are they thinking? When you spin those stories in your head, you get more mad. I meant to bring a match today because I was going to illustrate this, but anger is like a match. So if I lit a match and just let it sit there, eventually it would go out. Hopefully I would drop it before it burned my finger. But it would go out because that's what matches do. They light temporarily and then they fizzle out. But then if I lit a match and I put it on a candle, that candle would burn for a really, really long time. So think about it this way. Anger is like the match, but the stories you tell yourself are like the candle. And so when you tell yourself these stories over and over, you just give fuel. You give fuel to the fire of anger, and it can burn a really, really, really long time. But if you can do what Jesus did, and even I'll go back to Eisenhower. I mean, think about this. These people are writing these horrible articles about the policies that Eisenhower is making, and what does he do? He just says, I'm puzzled by those people. Like, what a great story. He'd made this decision, I'm not going to spin it in my head. I'm not going to make it worse than it is. I'm going to give these people the benefit of the doubt. And so what I'm saying is that if you can do that, if you can learn this, to practice this, nix the negative narrative, then what happens is you still get angry. I mean, you can't avoid it. But you can starve it. So when you nix the negative narrative, you're just starving the anger. You're not giving it any fuel to burn. And so, yeah, you get mad for just a few minutes, but then you let go of it. But for those of you that don't do this and you hold on to those negative narratives, then you're going to be angry for a really, really long time. I'll give you one more practical story from my life. So this, just about 6 weeks ago, I'm in a neighborhood. I'm about to turn left onto Boulevard, so I'm like just south of like where Hideaway is and some of those side roads. And so I'm about to turn left onto Boulevard, and this truck is on Boulevard, and he's actually turning right into the same side street that I'm coming out of. And as I come up to Boulevard, this truck swerves all the way into my lane and nearly hits me. And so my window's already down, and I am so angry that as this guy drives by me, I just give him one of these, just looking at the guy, just giving him a death stare. And Mary's sitting next to me, and her comment is, Phil, I'm really glad you have your mask on, and I hope this person doesn't go to Memorial Road. Which I'm not sure why I had my mask on at that point, but I did. I was so mad. Well, the guy in the truck, he had his window down too. And so as he's driving by, and he's 60, 65 years old, and he must be really sharp, because in this 3-second window of time, he actually was able to get out 2 or 3 sentences because our windows were down. And so here's what he said. He said, I'm so sorry. I'm towing a grill behind me and I didn't want it to tip. That's pretty impressive that he could say that in 3 seconds, but he did. And then he just kept on driving. I turned left, and I'm just mad. I can't believe you did that. Get married. And I'm just angry and yelling. And I don't even know where I was going at that point, maybe Target or something. But I get a mile or two down the road, and then I start to think, I've driven a truck before pulling, with furniture and appliance in the back, and I drive differently when I'm hauling something like that. I drive slower, and I take wide turns. And so by the time I got to Target, I didn't feel mad anymore. Now the event, it didn't change. That guy still pulled right in my lane. But after about 15 minutes, I had changed the story. The first story is, how dare you, you're a horrible driver, I'm right, you're clearly wrong. But then 15 minutes later, the second story is, you know what, I've been in that situation before and I understand why you would do that. And my anger didn't really have any more fuel to burn. So all I'm saying is that if you do this, you'll be less angry and you can get better. You can get better at this. So, very, 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 very simple sermon. But just to summarize, number one, you want to exchange your anger for action. And then number two, you want to nix the negative narrative. And I'll end with this. I want you to go back to the cross, and I want you just to go back to the scene of Jesus. He's suffering, and he says, Father, forgive them what they do. Jesus forgives people at their worst, and he gives them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that if Jesus would offer that kind of grace to the very people that put him on the cross, I think he offers that to us too. Like you are not saved because you get everything right. You're saved because he got it right. That's the story of grace. It's his work on the cross. And so for those of you that you do kind of walk around with this sense of, I just don't know if I've done enough. I just don't know if I've said enough of the right things. I wonder if I've done too many of the wrong things. You're diminishing the power of the cross. When Jesus goes to the cross, he's taking it onto himself because he loves us. And then he invites us into this amazing story in which we can partner with him to build a better world through his Spirit and for his kingdom. And so if you want to be a part of that kingdom, then I'd love you to come tell me about that this morning. Or if there's anything that this church family can do for you, come tell me about it while we stand and sing.
Only by grace can we enter. Only by grace can we stand. Not by human endeavor, but by the blood of the Lamb. Into your presence you call us to come. Into your presence you draw us, and now by your grace we come. Oh, now by your grace we come. Oh, but Lord, if you mark our transgressions, who would stand? Lord, who would stand? Thanks to your grace we are cleansed by the blood of the Lamb. Oh, Lord, if you mark our transgressions, who would stand? Lord, who would stand? Thanks to your grace we are cleansed by the blood of the Lamb. Oh, only by grace can we enter. Only by grace can we stand. Not by human endeavor, but by the blood of the Lamb. Into your presence you call us to come. Into your presence you draw us, and now by your grace we come. Oh, now by your grace we come. Oh, now by your grace we
We're glad you joined us for worship today. Thanks again to those of you who are joining us in person and in our overflow rooms and at home. We're grateful for the chance to worship together today. In just a minute, one of our shepherds, Doug Rice, will lead us in a closing prayer. And after that prayer, we'll sing one more song. And as we do each week, we want to invite those of you who feel more comfortable leaving during that last song. You are welcome to do that. If you feel safer doing that, you can head on out to your cars and leave. And others of you are welcome to stick around and visit in socially distanced, appropriate ways, preferably outside if you can, in the parking lot. We think that's a great place for post-worship fellowship. If you would help us out as we're finished, when you're leaving, if you'll clean up your area, any communion remains or trash that's around, we'd be grateful if you'd pick that up and help our crew who cleans up this room when we're finished. We'd be grateful for your help in that. And also, just a reminder of what Andy said. As soon as we're finished, we could use some help moving these wrapped Magi boxes to the East Foyer, and I think there may even be some trucks or vehicles there to load those into, so those can be taken and sent off. So if you'd help us, it'd take just a minute or two of your time, grab a couple of boxes, take them outside so we can load those up. Last thing, if you're a guest, reminder that First Cup is available to you today. As soon as we're finished, head out these doors just across the lobby into our conference room. We'd be glad to receive you there and meet you and let you ask any questions about Memorial Road. So at this time, we're going to invite Doug Rice to lead our closing prayer.
Would you pray with me? Our Heavenly Father, we very humbly approach your throne of grace. Father, acknowledging our shortcomings and being grateful for your acceptance and your love. Father, help us to see others through your eyes. Help us to not judge them, judge their motives. Father, help us to seek to understand and to listen. But Father, help us to love them as you would love them. Father, be with us as we leave this place. Help us to feel your peace and your calm. Father, we pray that you will bring that peace and calm upon our nation and that you will draw us closer to one another and closer to you. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, let's sing one more song together. And again, if you feel most comfortable, you're welcome to leave during this song. If not, you can stick around and visit. O Lord, prepare me this sanctuary.